What's up, YouTube? Siegfried True Lane and Mortal Kombat 2 finally came to Japan. It's also finally available for digital on Amazon Prime. In the US, I live in Japan, so it's not available to me there yet. Anyways, this is going to be spoiler heavy, so heads up warning before you guys get into the video. But I want to talk about my thoughts on the movie, as well as my thoughts on the negative criticism the movie has received. See you all in just a few minutes. What's up, YouTube? Siegfried True Lane here. And again, the movie just came out. I watched it last Friday. I got the first showing at 9:40 in the morning. Before I go to the movie, I kind of want to talk about the actual experience in the theater. It was pretty funny. Being as it was so early on a weekday, I didn't expect many people there. I usually don't work until the afternoon, so I had time to go in the morning. But there was only like 5 or 6 people in the theater, which is what I expected. But what I didn't expect was they were all older people, like in their 60s or maybe late 50s, early 60s, like people with canes and whatnot. So I was really surprised to see all these older people in a movie that I knew was going to be bloody and gory. Um, so that was kind of a fun experience, but I really enjoyed it. So about the movie, first of all, I want to talk about the katana subplot. I loved the katana story. I felt like that was the best way to go about the story. Instead of just kind of redoing the same story over and over again, which, if you played Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3, and 9, you've already done the story. So it's not something we need to see again, personally. I do think that um, Midway has given us enough alternate versions of the story that I don't think it's that big of a deal if the movie takes it its own way. And you still have the original Mortal Kombat movie from 1995, which does the original Liu Kang is the chosen one story. But when watching this movie, it really felt like the story was more heavily um, affected by Mortal Kombat's 9 through 11, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it. I mean, then obviously you've got the hint at 1 with the ending with Liu Kang of him coming back as the Fire God, which would be Mortal Kombat 1. So, when you watch the 1995 version, it's really obvious that that's based off the original 2 Mortal Kombat games. The newer movie, then the one that just came out, really feels like it's based more off the Mortal Kombat 9 with traces of 10 and 11 in it, which I think is fine. So, I love the katana subplot. I like because I feel like of everybody in the movie, she's the one who truly had a reason to actually like justifiably kill Shao Kahn. I mean, like she just I don't feel having anybody else kill him would have ended it right. Um, I love the Johnny Cage and Baraka. I know some people have complained about Baraka being a joke, but I mean, honestly, I think that is by far one of the greatest forms of Baraka ever. Like, I like the fact that they didn't take away his barbaric side. He's still a barbarian, right? He's still Baraka, but it's just like I love the fact that he becomes a fanboy of Johnny Cage because that's just funny for me. The Johnny Cage, I mean, again, Carl Urban, I think, did a great job. I think he feels more like a mix between both of the Johnny Cages from 11, young and old, where he is older, so he is a little more ground down to the earth, right? He's not still up in that I'm so amazing mindset, but at the same time, you can still see that movie star aspect of him. So I think Carl Urban played a really good Johnny Cage. I don't think again Johnny Cage needs to be this young actor. I mean, again, we got that one with Lyndon Ashby, and Lyndon Ashby was he was great as Johnny Cage. I feel Carl Urban did a really good job. I really liked him as Johnny Cage. I don't know why some people just I don't know like I'll get in that in the end of the video, but um, the fighting was really good. Um, I do, to be perfectly honest, I still think that the fights from the original 1995 Mortal Kombat are better. Um, just a lot more. I feel like when I watch the fights from the 1995 movie, the fights feel more real. You know, the fights from Annihilation and the other two, Mortal Kombat 2021 plus Mortal Kombat 2 that just came out, you can tell that there are some like there's some things that just don't work as well because you can tell like how they move. Like I think a good example is Johnny Cage has like a what is like a front flip, fake kick, backflip, and double kick or something, and it's obviously something nobody could do. It's not possible. So it's not. I didn't really enjoy it that much. I do think when you got two martial artists fighting in the new movie, it was really good. But like I mean, like Katana's fight definitely felt better against Shao Kahn. I felt like that was a really good fight. In fact, honestly, I think for me personally, the Katana versus Shao Kahn was the best fight. I know a lot of people liked Kung Lao and Liu Kang, which I thought was a good fight, really good fight, one of the top three. But I just think like the amount of rage and the amount of like how Katana attacks, I felt like that was one of the better fight. That was the best fight. But you know, I do think that like the Mortal Kombat 1995 movie has they used more practical effects and the fight was better. Because when you're seeing like for example Liu Kang, I think a good example is like when Liu Kang is against Reptile, right? And he jumps up and he kicks his feet against his head and pulls him down. That's something he did. That's something he had to do. Of course, they had match, but he physically did that. So I do feel like the original movie has better fights, in my opinion. They just feel more grounded. Music, oh, the original music, 1995 music. I think that's the one thing. Like they really should have taken that from the 1995 movie. I don't understand why they didn't copy or emulate or not emulate, imitate the original soundtrack from 1995 because that soundtrack is one of the most memorable things about the 1995 movie is just that soundtrack. It's an amazing soundtrack, and I think that they could have definitely used it. Obviously, the Mortal Kombat theme probably wouldn't have worked really well with Katana versus Shao Kahn, but there's a lot of I don't know, like, due to the fact that there wasn't, in my opinion, that much of a music. Like, if there was music, I don't remember it. Just kind of downplays it a bit. Also, I do feel like some things are rushed. I mean, the Liu Kang's fight, Cole's fight, and Jack's fight were all at the same time. I mean, I'm not sure why they rushed that. I do think that they could have done one at a time would have been better. Um, I don't know. It's like two and then three. Like that, just to me, it felt like the fights were rushed and the fights were too short. Um, and so let's go ahead and get on some like overall I like the movie, but let's get on some complaints I have personally about the movie. Okay, first the pit fight. I hate the fact that they did the pit at the bottom. I don't know why they did that. One of the most iconic fatalities in Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 is the pit fatality, where you knock somebody off the pit and they fall to their death. I don't know why they did it at the bottom. That when I saw that I was really disappointed because it was great seeing a, familiar area, but that's where you're only down there when you fight Reptile. You never fight down there other than the Reptile fight. So it doesn't make any sense that they're down there. I think it would have been much better to have had Sonya knock Sindel off of the bridge into the pit. So that was really disappointing. Johnny Cage Katana's fight was fine. I like that one. Cole Young and Shao Kahn's. I mean, okay. I really don't like what they did with Cole Young in this movie. I mean, I get it. He was a hated character. I didn't even like him in Mortal Kombat 1. He was one of the more annoying aspects of Mortal Kombat 1. I do agree. But the problem is that they spent Mortal Kombat 1 kind of building this connection between him and his family, right? And then it's just like he gets Thanos. And his family gets Thanos. And they don't exist anymore. And I mean, like, that is one of the worst retcons I think I've ever seen, right? That's one of the worst retcons I've ever seen. And I don't have an issue with him dying, right? I do think the fact that they have the Deadpool and they didn't use the Deadpool correctly is disappointing. I think they could have done the Deadpool better. I think using Melina in the first Mortal Kombat movie was a major mistake because what ended up happening was by the time they got to Mortal Kombat 2, they didn't have enough characters you could kill on both sides, right? Which means you didn't have enough fatalities. I mean, I think that's like that's one of my I guess my personal gripes is the lack of actual fatalities they could have done. You have the you have the Deadpools. It would that was that's a iconic pit fatality and they didn't do it. You had the pit and they didn't do the pit fatality for the stage fatality for the pit. You had if you look at the fatalities, Cole gets fatality right with the head smash, which again I wish they would have had some closure with his family on that one, which I'll talk about that in a bit. Um, you have Kung Lao get fatality through his own hat. You have who else gets fatality? I guess Katana fatalities. Shao Kahn with her blades. The Scorpion fatality on Noob's Shadow was one of the best. I mean, that was great. See him slice him in half. But when you take a look at all the fights, right? Let's go through all the fights, right? The first fight is Kano is a Katana versus Johnny Cage. No fatality, obviously. Next fight, Cole Young versus Sonya versus Sindel. I mean, that fatality was kind of meh. Like honestly, I don't know why they didn't just do the pit. Like having her be blast off the pit and fall to her death would have been so much better. So I mean, that's a fatality, but it's just kind of meh for me. Then you got Cole Young and Shao Kahn. That's actually a pretty good fatality. I just wish it wasn't in the Deadpool, so we could have seen a Deadpool fatality. Jax versus Jade, obviously no fatality. And Liu Kang versus Kung Lao, there's that fatality there. Jax gets killed, but it's not a fatality, just stabbed to the neck. I mean, like, Jax's death was a complete waste. In all honesty, like, Jax's death could have been so much better and it was a complete waste. If you're going to kill characters, at least make it good. And then, of course, Shao Kahn being fatality. And if you actually take a look at both sides, only 3 out of the 5 fighters on Outworld get fatality. And that's because they killed Melina off in 2, and Melina should have been saved. Or they killed Melina off in the first one. Why they brought Mortal Kombat 2 characters in the first movie, I don't understand if they weren't doing the tournament because there were so many other options. They could have used so many other characters, right? They could have used Rain. They could have used because let's be honest, Rain's never really in a Mortal Kombat story. He's really not. He's a side character. They could have used. I mean, they used Nitara. They could have used Scarlet. Scarlet would have been great instead of Melina. Switch Melina for Scarlet. Nobody cares about Scarlet. Just switch him out. Since Sub-Zero is already bad, they could have used Frost. If you're gonna, use some characters you can throw away in the first movie, so that the second movie has a better lineup. Because I just feel like there weren't enough fights, and the fights weren't good enough, and the fights were sometimes, I mean, like they were just too, like they would do 3 fights at one time. I mean, that's just I didn't like that. Again, going back to the 1995 movie, you start off when the tournament starts. You have the Monk versus Liu Kang, and then after that, Kano versus Sonya, then Johnny Cage versus Scorpion. The most boring fight, Liu Kang versus Katana, which is the most boring fight. It just looks more like they're dancing. Liu Kang versus Sub-Zero. And then Goro comes out. Goro just murders everybody. And then Art versus Goro. Johnny Cage versus Goro. And then Liu Kang versus Reptile. And then Liu Kang versus Shang Tsung. Those fights actually they feel complete and conclusive. A lot of the fights I just felt didn't feel conclusive. I mean, again, I just feel like the fights in 1995 were better. Fatalities were better in this one, of course. I mean, the fatalities are always going to be better than new movies because they have more feet. They can do more with it, right? But, as for the actual choreography, I do like the other choreography more. Except for when you get, I think, to Scorpion and Sub-Zero fight. Like, Scorpion and Sub-Zero's fight looks really good. Scorpion and Noob Saibot's fight looks really good. Liu Kang and Kung Lao's fight looks really good. Because you can tell that they're they're actually martial artists. That's what I almost said kung fu artists. They're martial artists. You can tell it, and those fights look great. But Jax versus Jade was boring. Johnny Cage was just funny, which is fine. That one was actually played for comedic relief. Sonya versus Sindel was boring. Um, Cole versus Shao Kahn was bullshit, but whatever. It's Shao Kahn, right? Um, and Katana versus Shao Kahn was great. But there were just a couple that were just, I mean, they're just boring. I mean, even, and if you take a look at it, it's not like the excuse of them not being a martial artist doesn't really work because I feel Sonya versus Kano in the 1995 movie was a much better fight than Sonya versus Sindel or Jax versus um, Jade. I mean, honestly, as weird as this might sound, I think the Jax fights in Annihilation were better than those Jax fights. I don't know. They're just something I didn't like the Jax fights. I just didn't care for them. So, uh, overall, I think the movie is great, but I do think the weakest part of the movie is the actual choreography fights for some of the fights. All right. So now I want to talk about some of the negative criticism the movie has gotten. Now, everyone is, of course, they're entitled to their own opinions, right? But for me, when your opinion seems to completely miss the source material, I take your opinion a little less seriously. And one thing I've noticed is a lot of people who claim to be these big video game nerds and movie nerds, really are posers. They're fake. And it's so easy to see. And I'm going to give the first example, right? The first example was I saw a clip about how Mortal Kombat 2 made no sense because the Elder Gods didn't intervene when Shao Kahn cheated with using this amulet of Shinnok. Now, if we use the original 3 Mortal Kombats, there are no Elder Gods, so those don't really work. And the Elder Gods in 4, I mean, only got involved because they didn't even really get involved. They just stood there and watched, right? So if we really want to talk about the Elder Gods in an actual play in the original Mortal Kombat series, we have to take a look at Mortal Kombat 9. Okay? When you take a look at Mortal Kombat 9, Shang Tsung loses the tournament. They then abduct people to force Earthrealm into agreeing to a second tournament. Now, that's already cheating. Elder Gods don't get involved. They lost, and they're being poor losers, and the Elder Gods just sit there and do nothing. All right, so there's our first example of the Elder Gods doing nothing. Next, they beat the second tournament, and yet again, Shao Kahn then has Quan Chi revive Sindel, and they open up the portals anyways. Again, bypassing the rules of the Elder Gods set forth. And the Elder Gods do nothing. In fact, saying that invasion does not equal merging. So in other words, even though you're supposed to have these rules set up to prevent Shao Kahn from invading and merging the realms, when he starts to cheat, they decide invasion is fine. So he can still invade. He can still go in there, murder everybody. It's not until he starts to merge because that puts them at risk that they get involved. And so let's talk about this. When you look at the Elder Gods, they've only gotten involved when it risks their own safety. I'm going to be honest, I didn't, it's only recently that I've actually researched a little more into this, so that now that I know this. But let's talk about why in the original timeline they only get involved when Shao Kahn starts to merge the realms. That is because the realms are all split parts of the One, which was the deity above them who hunted them for sport. In other words, the One is their natural enemy. He preys upon them. When they split him into the different parts, that was to save their own skin. So by merging the realms, they make it's more likely for the One to return. So when Shao Kahn is killing people, they just don't give a crap because it doesn't threaten their lives. It's not until he does something that threatens their lives without winning the 10 tournaments that they get involved. Now, to be honest, the story leaves another loophole of why, if even merging is a risk to them, why they would even have a way for him to merge the realms with the tournaments, right? Like, why would they even create that if it's a risk to them, right? So, I mean, that's a loophole in the game itself. The game is full of loopholes, to be honest. But the point being is, that's when they get involved. The Elder Gods have only gotten involved when it affects their safety. They don't care about anything else. So the fact that Shao Kahn would use the amulet of Shinnok to make himself technically immortal doesn't risk them. Because let's be honest, the Elder Gods would have been able to easily. They would have known about the Shinnok, the amulet of Shinnok. They would have known how to destroy it. They would have been able to destroy it. They would have been able to destroy it and then destroy him. That's not really a risk to them, especially since they were immortal, right? They're immortal, so he can't hurt them. And his immortal is tied to a Horcrux, pretty much. But a very obvious one that they could find and destroy really easily since they're the Elder Gods. So by him having the immortality, it doesn't risk them, right? And let's be real. I mean, like if we're talking about the storyline, they probably would have gotten involved right before he merged the realm, right? They probably would have gotten involved and deemed the tournament invalid when he started to merge the realms. Now, obviously, this is all theory based since that he doesn't win the tournament. But if you take a look at the games, that's probably what would have happened, as that's when they got involved finally in Mortal Kombat 9. So, the whole complaint about the Elder Gods not intervening when Shao Kahn cheats doesn't make sense. Makes perfect sense. Shao Kahn is a renowned cheater in the tournaments, and the Elder Gods are in renown for not getting involved when it doesn't affect them personally. And Mortal Kombat 2021 actually sets this up. Think about it. You have Shang Tsung going around and killing the Earth, the challengers for Earth, or the champions for Earth realm. Now, obviously, he doesn't kill them himself. He enlists Sub-Zero to do it. But still, I mean, like, you have Sub-Zero kill Scorpion. Kill Hanzo Hasashi. That's against the tournament rules. Why was that allowed? Also, why is Sub-Zero still alive? I mean, think about it. He obviously killed him back in more of ancient Japan, and Sub-Zero is human. He is not an outworld being. So, like, if you even look at Mortal Kombat 2021, like, Sub-Zero doesn't make any sense, because he shouldn't be alive in the events of Cole Young if he killed the original Hanzo Hasashi. And Cole Young is descendant, meaning that there have been multiple decades and generations. But if you watch, 2021 sets it up that Shao Kahn cheats nonstop. I mean, he literally is murdering Earth's champions, so they don't even have champions before the tournament starts. Whenever they have their champion that would actually probably be a risk to them, he has them ambushed and murdered. I mean, like, it's imprinted in the first movie, and it's pretty much imprinted in the games. I mean, when Shao Kahn invades in Mortal Kombat 3, he's his death squad is to go and kill all the champions he can, and only a few survive. That's why Johnny Cage is dead. He's been murdered. So, in Mortal Kombat 2, they murder all the Shaolin monks, So, I mean, like, it's infamous for Shao Kahn's infamous for cheating. So, I think the argument that Shao Kahn cheating doesn't make any sense kind of shows the person who claims to have been a fan of Mortal Kombat never actually played the games, or at least never played the games enough to understand the story of the games. And I mean, let's be honest, if you take a look at the original games, that's before games really had a story mode. Mortal Kombat's 1 through 4 really don't have a story. Like, there's some lore, but there's not a story. Not an established story. It's not until Mortal Kombat, I think Deception, because I don't think Deadly Alliance really had a story. I think Deception is the first one that starts an actual story mode. But Deadly Alliance might have one. But I do know Deception because of Shinjinko, right? I remember playing through the story of Shinjinko, is when you really start to get an established story for Mortal Kombat games. And then, of course, Mortal Kombat 9 does actually have a story mode. So does 10, 11, and 1. So, yeah, honestly, Shao Kahn cheating and the Elder Gods doing nothing fits perfectly into the Mortal Kombat realm. Another one I was thinking of. Let me think for a second. Oh, the other complaint I remember saying. Okay, I was trying to stop for a second and think about it. I was talking about how the story doesn't matter. They should just made it fun and like just fun and stupid. Again, I think the story with Katana was great. And, a movie is not a game, right? In a game, you are interacting, so you have that extra bit of amusement because you're interacting with the game. A movie, you're just sitting there and watching. There has to be some type of emotional tie, right? I feel like, the complaint about Katana's storyline is just dumb. I mean, I've seen some that, like, Didn't like the fact that Liu Kang didn't kill Shao Kahn and that Katana did. But again, let's talk about the games. Go back to Mortal Kombat 11. Who kills Shao Kahn in Mortal Kombat 11? It's Katana. Who unites Outworld in Mortal Kombat 11? It's Katana. Katana has very, throughout the game, became a very strong character in the game. And if you think about it, right, with King Jared being murdered by Shao Kahn, and I mean, Sindel's story has changed so much, but let's go with the original Sindel being murdered by being murdered by Quan Chi or whatever, or killing herself, right? Pretty much thanks to the death of Jared, Sindel is dead. Now I do know in Mortal Kombat 11 that got retconned to where she killed, like, poisoned Jared, which I really hate that. I think that I don't know why they would do that. I always like the fact I preferred her being brought back as a revenant after she killed herself due to grief was a better story personally. I don't like the or like I think originally it was to put a shield around Earthrealm so Shao Kahn couldn't actually invade. Which I really liked that story. I felt that that story is much better having her be being a martyr that took her own life to protect Earthrealm. I don't like how they changed it in Mortal Kombat 11, but they changed it in Mortal Kombat 11 to make her just pure evil. I don't get it, honestly. But, you know, obviously in the movie she's not pure evil. It's in the obviously in the movie that she is the original Sindel who actually cared. Um, and she's obviously been murdered or killed herself and been brought back as a revenant, which you can see Shao Kahn used to psychologically torment Katana with. I mean, like it's very obvious what's being like how that's being handled. I like seeing the fact that Katana had to deal with all that psychological abuse while putting on a face to make it look like she didn't like she actually agreed with Shao Kahn while dealing with his psychological abuse. I felt that that was really good. I do think Jay turning her in was a bit stupid, but I mean, it does kind of fit in with Mortal Kombat 9. I don't remember. I don't think Jade turned her in Mortal Kombat 9, but Jade was kind of in the same idea of, what are you doing? Don't do this. I think having Jade betray her was personally dumb. I think it would have been better just have her be caught by Shang Tsung or something. I think would have been much better, right? Jade betraying her doesn't. I didn't like that aspect. I just think it'd been better have like Shang Tsung catch her and then Jade, doing what Jade does. Because it's kind of like the way they did it, it's kind of like, oh, I stabbed you in the back, but now I'm going to help you after uh, from everything I caused you, these things that are happening to you, which is my fault. I'm going to fix it this way. I think it would have been better have her get caught by Shang Tsung or Quan Chi or even just Shao Kahn, and then have Jade have her turn what she does. But I do think the Katana story was really strong. I think that was honestly. I think I see a lot of complaints about how the dialogue was dumb and the story wasn't really written well. I do think the Katana story was written well, and I do think that the Johnny Cage section, especially Johnny Cage and Kano and Johnny Cage and Baraka, is great comedic relief, which you need. Johnny Cage is supposed to be that. So overall, I think the movie was great. I do think some of the fights, the choreography in the fights was lackluster. I do think the 1995 has better choreography. I'm really disappointed they did not throw in a pit fatality at all. Like there's no stage fatalities, which were perfect. I would have liked some closure with Cole's family, but it's just like, oh, he's dead, and they never mention it again, which I really don't like. I mean, I get it. Nobody liked the character. I didn't like the character, but I still think it's like you spend a whole movie building up this character, and you're just like Thanos him. I don't like that. I thought that was just kind of cheap and disrespectful, and I think they should have done. I think they could have done that better. At least, again, closure with his family. Having his family know, having them deliver the information. Deliver the news to his family so his family knows or something. I do hope, personally, I hope that they bring back Cole Young, but as Kenshi or as Takeda. Like, I would like to see him come back in a different form, just like with Noob Saibot. Now, I know that the whole thing, like, without his head, they can't, it's hard to bring back his revenant without his head.
but it's Mortal Kombat. You could it's like Dragon Ball, you can make anything magically happen, right? I mean, Shao Kahn is killed in Deadly Lines, and all of a sudden, oh no, he wasn't killed. That was a clone. Liu Kang is killed in Deadly Lines, and I think Liu Kang comes back in Deception Army. I mean, the point is, they got freaking Dragon Balls, right? I mean, like the entire MK9 cast is killed, and then in MK10, all of a sudden, Sub Zero and Scorpion are back to normal. There's like some magical way to bring the Revenants back to normal, right? Like
there's nothing tied there, right? They can. So I would like to see him come back, but maybe as Blind Kenshi or Takeda, or maybe come back as under a different name. Um, just because I didn't like, I hate the fact that they built up this ties with his family just to kill him and then not mention him ever again. The Arcana being gone, great. The Arcana was stupid. Arcana was always dumb. Um, I don't know why they came up with that. I mean, I would be honest, more than Cole Young, we were talking about the original Mortal Kombat movie, right? Cole Young, a lot of people complain about Cole Young. For me, the biggest thing was like the Arcana system. Like that was dumb. Like Arcana, really, just give. Nobody needs an ex. We don't need an explanation for why things are the way they are. So, anyways, guys, that's kind of where I'm gonna leave it at. If you haven't seen the movie yet, it is available digital now. It's worth watching. It's a good movie. Um, I do think it's not nearly as gory as the. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain. Right? Kung Lao's fatality Vitata was definitely the goriest fatality. I do feel like there were a lot more signature fatalities in the original one, which is kind of weird because there weren't as many signature fatalities in this one. But the first one, there were a lot more signature fatalities, which I thought were good. So, video's already 30 minutes long. I'm gonna stop it here, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. See you later.